Welcome to Navigating Life After 40, the podcast that's all about helping women navigate this exciting and sometimes challenging phase of life. I'm your host, Roni J, and I'll be here sharing some of my own personal experiences, chatting with experts and a few friends, and also providing some practical advice and support to help you live your best life after 40. Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Navigating Life After 40. I am your host, Roni, and as always, I hope each of you are doing well today. I am here with Pamela Heffler, a spiritual life embodiment coach and actress. Welcome to the podcast, Pamela. How are you today?
I'm wonderful and so grateful to be here. Thank you for having me. I just love the title of your podcast. Well, drew me
Thank
to
you.
And when we spoke, I thought this is where it's at. So thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. All right. What I love to do on my show is I love to kick things off with a fun icebreaker. And considering that this kind of falls in line a little bit with what you do, I thought this would be the perfect icebreaker to share. Okay. All right. So picture this. Hollywood comes knocking on your door. You know all about Hollywood. And you're ready to turn your life story into a blockbuster movie. But here's the twist. You get to choose the leading lady to play you on the big screen. So, who's the lucky actress and what makes her the perfect fit for the role?
Oh my goodness. Wow. So you all, this is a surprise. I have to think of this. Someone came to me, and I always try to trust my first intuition, and it really sort of doesn't make sense. I'm going to say Anne Hathaway, but she's very tall.
Nice.
Which is not me at all. I'm very petite, but there's something about her vulnerability and her tenacity, and we have similar coloring. Maybe it's I'll say maybe it's my wish. I wish I was tall like her. And obviously, she would be younger, my younger version. She has I guess she's a brilliant actress, talented. She can sing. I sing as well. But the fact that she has like I said, a vulnerability, a quirkiness, almost being able to play like that insecure, but lovable character. So I could see her being my younger self. So I know exactly how old she is. And she's just a beautiful work, and her energy is beautiful, and her spirit. And we both have dark hair and dark eyes, and a big smile. So I don't know. That came to me. It maybe isn't the perfect choice, but it's in my
Yes, I love Anne Hathaway, by the way. So I could totally see that in the resemblance as well. I'm not sure how old she is either, but I could definitely see like
40 or
under 40. Okay.
And, I think I also too, but just put it out to the universe. I would love to be in a project with her. Like, I feel like I could play her aunt or something. I feel like
Yes.
we work with each other, and that came to me. I sort of just got those yes chills, and I do that embodiment work. So I know when my body speaks to me, I'm like, yes, I want to work with Anne Hathaway. So putting that out to the universe, if anyone's listening.
Yes. And whatever you put out, it will come back to you. So I truly believe that. So hopefully Anne Hathaway or somebody, maybe you might hear this just on the fly. Please reach out to Pam so that you guys can do a movie together, and I will tune in as well. I would love to see that. Thank you for playing that little tidbit with me before we jump into today's episode. We're going to spend a little bit of time having a conversation about some misconceptions about women in midlife and the work that you do, of course, with women. We're going to be talking about shattering myths and also how women can empower themselves on this journey. And before we hop into just a deeper discussion on this topic, I'd love for you to share with the listeners what inspired you to pursue a career in both the arts and in coaching as you're doing now.
Thank you for that question. From the time I was really little, I I seriously came into the world like I need to dance. My mom said I was dancing in her belly. I truly believe we're all creatives, really. We're all creating our lives. And as a child, that was my pleasure and my joy. It was actually not something I saw outside myself. I just was always creating as a child. I was writing poetry and playing the piano without any training. And instead of recess, I was choreographing dances. I grew up on the East Coast of the United States, and that was a common thing when we would go to summer camp. Most kids or whatever would do the regular swimming and the activities, and I was in every show. I was even too young. I remember, this is terrible. I remember lying about my age because you had to be over 10, and I wasn't 10. And I told them, and I thought I'm going to get in so much trouble because that was what I wanted to do without a lot of training. And then later on, I would sing and dance. I always thought that I was going to do musical theater, actually. I did every show in high school and all those things. And then I really wanted to pursue it. And it was a challenge. And I think that's actually part of my story. I'm in pre-production for a film I wrote. And it's why I want to inspire people because, again, I grew up in more of a traditional family where it was, you just go to college and you get a degree and you do the safe thing and you want to make money. And what are you going to stand on a street corner and dance to make a living? That was actually like what I heard, which I understand. It came from wanting to protect and fear and all those things. But I kept pursuing and I was good. I mean, I did get into a university, got in under a Bachelor of Fine Arts program, and I just ate it up because like a lot of the other gals, I'll say mostly gals, but there were men too in the program, had a lot of training. And I just ate it up and I just went to every class I could and worked really hard. I remember asking a teacher, the lead professor, you think I can make it as a dancer? He laughed in my face because he didn't think I would do it. And I was like, I'll show you. And I really got good. And he was like, wow, you've turned around. And then I moved back east. I did a lot of summer stock theater. If anyone doesn't know what that is, you do theater in the summers and it was fun. You get paid like $100 a week or whatever. It's very romantic. I did that. And then I moved out to LA and got into a dance company right away and did lots of movies and music videos. And it was just, again, always something that I could not do. That's all I have to say about that. And then really, because I was discouraged as a dancer within the dance world and the audition scene, and found it very hard for me competitive wise. I didn't feel very confident. Someone said you should go into acting, and I started studying, and I fell in love with finding my voice in a different way, having my truth in a different way. And I remember then I met my then husband. We'd been back and forth between LA and New York, and I went to New York and really got good training. I remember someone saying this when they saw me in a class. They said, it's like you're fighting for your life up there. And I said, yeah, I am, because I didn't have that sense of freedom to have my voice and my power and my truth. And to me, that's what acting is. It's really about speaking your truth and bringing stories to light that are important. And I think that's why people resonate. That's why we go to the movies and get attached to TV shows or theater, anything artistic, because we're moved by the human experience. I was always on a personal growth journey as well, my own sense of well-being. And I remember being in New York and being in an acting class and just starting out. And this woman said, oh, I'm a life coach. And I started working with her and fell in love with it to this day. We still talk. We're friends. She was my coach for a while. And then she brought me on. She said, you would be a great coach. And she trained me. And this was probably 14 years ago. And I became one of her coaches, Illumin Education, and fell in love with inspiring. I think, again, going back to from, their own, my traditional families, well-meaning, but sort of discouraging me from, why would you go into that? There's no security. And I'm all about, I want to inspire people. And so I think that's part of my mission as a coach, is to help people tap into their truth, tap into their inspiration, get to the other side. And I've also done a lot of the work I do is more embodied. Some coaches are more like action oriented. And that's actually how I started out. Like, okay, let's make our goals and take the aligned action, which is all great. But I started to put it together. I did a lot of what I call somatic body-based therapy. And that was an incredible practice. It was really about honoring your truth, but like in a more embodied way. So allowing anger and shame and grief and pleasure and joy, like all of it. And I started leading these journeys, and I literally took all my sort of coaching background, all of the somatic therapy, and my passion for dance and this intuition. So I created these, it had music and it was meditation, and I was leading these incredible in-person groups here in 2017 and 2018. So that is how I've come to do this, and I'm always just excited to serve.
Thank you for sharing your story and your journey. It sounds like your parents, just like many of ours, they want you to go down this certain path. And as you mentioned, it is a way to protect you so that you always have something steady and consistent. And you chose to take a different direction and follow your passion and follow your dream. And I really commend you for that, because I know that is a struggle for so many women that I talk to pretty often, especially in midlife, how they had this dream that they wanted to follow. And instead of following that dream, they had to do the safe thing. And just to hear how you worked through the challenges that came your way, your tenacity and your willingness to just keep going and to keep fighting for your dream. And then to move from that to now helping other people. I want to hop into talking about some of the misconceptions that as women that we experience in midlife. And I would love to hear if there are any common misconceptions that you've encountered when doing your work with women in midlife or any of your clients in midlife.
Yeah, one of the common themes, I was sort of surprised, but I've noticed with women, they're afraid to be big and successful and powerful because they don't want to intimidate their men or make their men not feel good. And I'm like, wow. And that's not for me to say what anyone should do in their relationship.
Yeah.
And I really try to encourage that, we all get to shine our light, and that doesn't diminish your man. And in your shining your light as a woman, and I would say these are maybe even a little bit older women, maybe from a bit of a different generation than either you or I. I had an artist she just said, oh, I just don't want to make my husband feel bad because he's out of work right now. And so she didn't want to really put herself out there. And it's delicate. That's a delicate conversation, because I certainly don't want to say, oh, screw that. But at the same time, I want to empower women to, as we are fully expressed, we give other people permission to be fully expressed. Like, I'll go back to a performance that I did back in 2018. Actually, my husband and I did. And I hadn't danced in a long time, but we produced a whole dance thing that was mind blowing. I got back in shape and I was doing ballet again. And one of my coworkers, who's probably 15 years younger, just cried. She said, oh my God, I had given up on myself because I thought it was too late. And here you are, 15 years older, doing the thing. And so it's like, yes, let me be a role model. I may be doing it imperfectly and not like I did in my 20s or whatever, but I'm still out there shining my light and creating, and to the best of my ability, living my truth. And then I guess the other thing is like just about women and her bodies. I don't see it all the time, but it's like, oh, I'm at this age. Oh, well, things sort of fall apart. Like, wait a minute, do they have to? Like, I mean, I don't think that necessarily has to be so. We can take really good care of ourselves and eat well and meditate and be athletic and feel sexual. Just one of my friends recently, I mean, I was so excited for her. She's like, yeah, I'm just wanting to get out there and date again. And you can have that. And then really having your voice as a woman, I think that was the other thing. Setting boundaries and speaking your truth was a theme that I saw a lot with my women's group. And being fully self-expressed, letting themselves say, this is my truth, and I'm setting this boundary because X, Y, and Z no longer works for me. And they got to it through the embodiment practice of feelings, their anger, or just their truth, honoring who they are and what's so for them, and having the courage then and the support. And miracles happen when you do that, whether it's in your personal relationship or at work. Just get clear about what's true and set that boundary and take care of yourself.
I still hear a lot of the same things as well from women. One, it's okay, I've reached this place in my life, especially after they get in their 40s and they start to say, I missed out on this, or they feel like they can't still do the thing that they want to do, or they have to just let themselves go and just let life go downhill for them. And for me, it's sad to see and hear because I feel like life can begin at whatever age you want it to. It doesn't have to be over just because you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s. It's not over for you. And for many women, it's just beginning. It's just, as you mentioned, some of them have lost their voice and now they're finding their voices. And we've always been taught as women that we should be quiet and we should let the men lead and yeah, and all of those things. And that's not necessarily true. We have a voice and our voices should be heard. And I love that these women that you've been working with have been able to set boundaries. I'm a big proponent of boundaries. That's something that I always encourage people to do. Also, you're letting them know like it's okay to say no. No is a complete sentence and it doesn't require an explanation. And for some people, they just struggle to figure that out. And so I love that you're able to help women find their voices again and work with them to say, hey, I can still do this thing. I don't have to put my life on the back burner for my husband, even though that's still a bit of a challenge because we know sometimes men have their egos and they don't want women to make more money than they make or to be more successful. And then, of course, there are some other men who don't mind because they feel like if my wife is going up, so am I. It's elevating me too. But, you still have some that have their egos and their problems. But I love that you're encouraging women to still follow the thing that you want to do.
Sometimes discovering it for the first time or allowing yourself to go, what was that thing? Or what is it now? We don't have to stay stuck. I mean, I think that's also our culture is like when you pick one thing and you stay with it. I have a good friend, she's a dear friend, she's 81. And she's always like, oh, now I'm doing this. I'm like, this is awesome. We always get to create. And I do hear that. I have a good friend. She's like, well, I'm in my late 60s. Everything's done. I'm like, what? Like, if you want,
Right.
it's fine. But it doesn't have to be that way. I think it's just knowing that we do have, I mean, if we are blessed to have choice, not everyone has choice. And I get that. And so if anyone's listening again around, oh gosh, that sounds, maybe easy for you. I get it. People have challenging situations. But there's even small ways of, it may not be the whole career that you're doing, but there are ways to find those things that bring you joy, that you get to be self-expressed or, yeah, really ignite the fire, like be the one that turns yourself on.
Yeah, and you your life in life we go through seasons just like we do throughout the year. We have spring, summer, winter, fall. Our lives go through seasons of change too, and as we go through these seasons, our interests are going to change sometimes. What we started off with in the beginning, we may decide, you know what, this is no longer of interest to me. Now I have something else I want to do, and that's okay. It is perfectly fine and it is perfectly normal. It does not make you a different person or a bad person. And you touched on a couple of points about beauty, which leads me to this next point because we do see how social media is out here. It was originally TV. We didn't have social media growing years ago when I was growing up. Thank the Lord. But now we have social media, and there is this big thing that we see where beauty is just mostly this outward appearance and we don't really focus on those internal things that really make us beautiful from the inside out. What are some ways that women can redefine beauty and relevance for themselves in midlife?
That's a beautiful question. I love that. I think it starts, at least for me, this is what I would say is a practice of really deep self-care
Mm-hmm.
and doing the inner work, meditation practice, and being around other women that really reflect your beauty and celebrate each other And I'm challenged with this too, like celebrating the wins that you do have in your life. Go, I did that. There's something called a love jar, and you can write out, this is a fun thing for anyone listening, write out just all these wonderful things either people have said about you or that you can imagine about yourself. Like, I am beautiful, I am sexy, I'm a great mother. Someone said that I'm an amazing teacher, or, whatever those things are. You put them in pieces of paper in a jar, lots of them, and pick one out, especially when you're feeling a little down, and just remind yourself. And I would say, put your hand on your heart, your belly, just feel your body. And doing those things, like the other day, I was in a funk and I took a bath and I listened to music and I used oil and I felt so much better after. And I use essential oils, and scent is very uplifting. And so, like, from the inside out, I also like dance is a big part of my life. So putting on music that's high vibration and you feel your body, if it's feeling sexy or feeling your whatever, your anger, your joy, your pleasure, and you can literally shift your vibration. So those are some inner world things. And I love being in nature. I think it gives a big perspective. I was blessed to like visit the Grand Canyon. I thought, oh my gosh, it just gives you perspective, or where you're by the ocean or in the woods somewhere beautiful in the redwoods. And that's that sense of awe, that sense of we're part of something bigger. And I think it goes back to really, in addition, doing the things that you feel are in alignment with who you are. If you're selling yourself out and doing things because you have to, and I can feel it when I'm doing things that I have to do, that I think I have to do, I can get very cranky. And then I can get very self-judgy. Working creatively in a project, like in a film or a theater piece, and I'm in the moment, fully expressed, or leading a client or a group. There's no room for that judgment to come in. It's not about the outer beauty. It's about this aliveness. It's an aliveness. And I'm not saying don't splurge and buy some good skincare or whatever and do the things that make you feel good, but that's part of the self-care. And exercise helps. And I think getting supportive people around you as well, so you're not alone. Because I think one thing I've noticed, and we've probably all heard, there's a lot of isolation and depression. And women, as you get older with hormones, can go through depression, really can dip in, and easy to really isolate. So I think particularly in those times, it's when you need those. Don't be afraid to reach out. You're not too much. People are there. They want to support you. Coaches are there to support you, and find your tribe. Find the women that light each other up. There's a practice where we get on a call and be like, tell me something you did. Let me brag to me. I want to hear, and let me celebrate you. We're not trained to do that as women. We've been trained to be competitive and separate instead of let's cheer each other on. And that's such a beautiful thing. And then everyone wins.
Sounds like a lot of doing these internal things and those positive affirmations. I love the idea of the jar. It reminds me of a few years ago when I was working at this company and we were talking about different things that we did for self-care. And I was struggling, like, I can't find anything. I can't find anything. And so I created a self-care jar. And so I just started writing these little notes and I would put it in the jar. And every week, at the end of the week, I had to pull something out of the jar and I had to actually do it. Then I had to report. Yeah, I had to report back to my team and share an update every week at our meeting. And so you mentioned like having that support system. And at that time, that was my support system. They held me accountable, which also caused me to keep myself accountable. And that's something that I also encourage other people to do as well. Create a jar, put things in there that you want to try, that you've always wanted to try. And you're just like, you know what? I don't know. And then you have to pull it out on a certain day. And it is your job to follow through with that. So I also love the idea of the positive affirmations. Whenever you're having a bad day, go to that jar, pull out that piece of paper and read what's on it and say it out loud to yourself until you believe it, and stand in the mirror. It's okay to stand in the mirror. I do it all the time. I stand in the mirror and I have to talk to myself when I'm having a bad day. And eventually your mind begins to take shape and to take form on those things that you are telling yourself. It's so easy for us to just kind of ruminate on the negative thing so much. It's so easy. but it's uncomfortable when we have to tell ourselves these positive things. But the more you do it, it's kind of like exercising. The more you exercise, the stronger you get. Yeah. Same thing with the affirmations and talking kind to ourselves. The more we do it, the easier it gets, the stronger our minds become. And then it starts to show forth itself in our actions and what we do. And so I really love that. I also love, what you mentioned about nature. I hear a lot of women talking about nature and getting out and how that is really helpful. And one that you mentioned that just took my mind back to the TV show Grey's Anatomy. I'm a Grey's Anatomy fan. And that is dancing it out. And it just made me think about how Meredith Grey, when she was in her residency program, they just danced it out. When they had a stressful day or a bad day, they was like, nope, just come in and dance it out. And they just danced. And I was just like, I love that. And I found myself doing that a lot. I never equated it to, okay, let me do this if I have a bad day, which I'm going to do now. But if I'm in the house and I'm cooking and I'm doing something, I turn some music on and I'm dancing. It puts you in a different space and a different mindset. And however you were feeling, if you were upset or feeling sad and all of that, it just does something to you to get that energy out, dancing and getting that energy out. So I love that is something that you look at as a way to redefine those beauty standards. Yeah, they're definitely really good tools that we need to use. And self-care, and it's really a part of self-care. What you're sharing here reminds me of just these are like other things you can add to your self-care toolkit. So
Just
that,
look at, I just feel like dressing up and feeling,
yeah.
feeling that too and feeling good and just for the heck of it. And I also want to say, I think what I have found with clients is by honoring your truth. I think sometimes the negative self-talk is really a coping mechanism when something is going on that you're not wanting to feel.
Mm-hmm.
So I do believe that when we feel like what the truth is, whether I was working with a client who had a bad divorce and she's like, I had so much rage towards my ex-husband. So it doesn't make sense in our brains to go that's connected to beauty. But I think that when you acknowledge, when I've noticed, or someone that was recently a client had lost a couple people very dear, and we just held a space for her to have her grief. It just helped her get to the other side. So I'm not saying to pretend that those things don't happen.
Right.
Healthy to have a supportive space to allow all of that so that you can actually then get to, I just unloaded that and I feel better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You still have the challenges, but how are you caring for yourself as you move through these challenges? I want to hop into more of your work as a spiritual life embodiment coach. How do you help women? We just touched on this just a bit. How do you help women release those limiting beliefs so that they can find a purpose in life?
Well, it's really it's a somatic embodied. That means for anyone listening, like I take people through a whole practice. So I start my sessions with deep meditation, sort of cleansing, little spiritual woo-woo, whatever we drop in. Then I always do some journaling and I give prompts so that we can do a little bit deeper dive into what are those things that are really up for you, because I don't know. And then we'll chat a little bit about, okay, what are those things in a session that we want to work on? What is the thing that, if you're willing, there's no demand on a client to go anywhere they don't want to go. And then I really take them through a whole embodied journey, and it's with music and it's guided, and I'm taking them through I give guided prompts just to give a sense. And it really is about awakening the body, just first of all, getting into our body. How does our body want to move? So there's no trying to it's not dance in the way that we're doing any choreography or trying to look good at all. It's quite the opposite. And then I ask them to find those places in their body where they feel that stuck energy or the anger and move it. And the music really helps them. So again, it's an embodied thing, whether we're shaking it off or moving our hips or stamping into the earth. Or I have this one exercise where I call, it's like when we were kids, we finger painted. I don't know if anyone did that, but imagine taking paint all over your body and like really allowing yourself to be messy. a lot of you are like, oh, can I do that? I'm like, yes. And what colors are you painting? And letting each, like really waking up the body and then allowing the voice to come through and saying no more, whatever it is that you want to say. And then getting to, all right, what is your divine inner self, your higher self, wisdom want to tell you? And it's a process. It's not like, okay, there's like a quick formula. Everyone's a little bit different depending on what they're coming forward with. And then usually we get to a deep truth, which is connected to getting quiet, the meditation, really doing some deep journaling to go, wow, like the truth is, people don't want to necessarily take the time to do that and go, wow, I didn't realize I was feeling that. And then we can work with it to, again, release so that you get to the other side. I actually worked with a client because I always had heard that she was very new to the work. She was a little uncomfortable. Like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't really am not in my body. She was always heard the body held like trauma and shame, but I never thought that it could also hold your passion and your pleasure and your joy. And I'm like, yeah, you can have all of it. That's sort of the point. It's my hope is that we can move things out and get to, this is what we want. And then I do use my sort of traditional coaching to go, okay, what's next before we meet again? What sort of actions do you want to take? What practices? How can you stay in the embodiment and also take this out into the world?
Well, you kind of answered my next question as well, which was about how your work kind of sets you apart from other coaches. And you mentioned quite a few things that you do in your practice with women and other clients that we don't typically, we hear some things, but not everything. And so I know typically life coaches are, you mentioned this earlier, they're all about setting those goals and going from, let's go from point A to point B to point C till we get to the end. And then in your work, you decided to, it's not that you're not helping them get to the end goal, but you decided to do it a different way, in a way that has been very helpful and successful, not only for yourself, but for your clients as well. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing more about what you do as a coach here with us. I am wondering, are there any tools or resources that you recommend for women looking to empower themselves so that they can continue to grow? And then we'll move into some wrap up pieces.
Come work with me. I'll say that that's a tool because I think it's a practice. It's a practice of doing that. I would say a tool also is grounding yourself, feeling your feet in the earth, feeling your personal power, getting clear about those things that you do want to take action around. Like we were talking about, if there's something you're like, oh, I never let myself do this, and finding an accountability partner if you're not in a group or a small group of really like-minded people or someone that can really lift you up. There's also, I mean, podcasts like this. Listen to a podcast like this. There are other podcasts. They're amazing. There's so much now online, even if it's someone that doesn't have the resources. You could search on Facebook if you're able to do that. Search topics that are important to you and join groups and connect with other people. It's easy. Sometimes we want to go under the covers. I get it. But then step out again and have that accountability. And I think if our visions for our lives are bigger than who we are, they are bigger than who we are.
Yeah.
Then you can feel much more empowered.
It's kind of like you just summed up the entire conversation for today. So I love everything that you shared here with me and the listeners as well. Are there any key takeaways that you like our listeners to remember from today's discussion?
Absolutely. That it's never too late to live your dream, what you're here for. Listen to that again. That is what you're here for. We're so blessed to be here, I believe, on planet Earth, that we are here in this lifetime. We are here to live our fullest self-expression, and that's unique to you. And you don't have to look like anyone else. And by doing that, you not only empower yourself, but you empower and inspire others. And then I truly believe that's women. It's our time to rise. It's our time to heal the planet. It's our time to be in leadership. It's our time to give our gifts. It's our time to shine. It's our time to use our voices in community, in connection, and change the world.
How can listeners connect with you and learn more about your work?
You can be anywhere. I work on the virtual platform. I've had clients I'm in Los Angeles. I've had clients in London or Portland or Alaska, Canada. It's amazing. And this work does work this way. Sometimes people think you have to be in person. They can reach out. My website, www.danceyourlifewithpam.com, or they can reach out on Instagram at Pamela Heffler. Heffler is H-E-F as in Frank, F-L-E-R, so 2 F, as well as on Facebook. Yeah, those are the best ways to reach out. I work one-on-one. I'm happy to offer your listeners a 20 or 30-minute free personal intro, so they can see if this work is right for them, and then I can introduce them to how to work privately.
Many ways to connect, and we'll definitely share those in the podcast show notes. I'll put that out there.
Say too, one more, if you want to follow as an actress, I'm on IMDb, which is the Internet Movie Database. So you can do Pam Heffler on IMDb, because I am going to be promoting my film, and so I would love to have listeners.
So I am excited about your film coming out. I know it's going to be great, and I'm also excited about the work that you're doing. And thank you for sharing with us today and sharing with the listeners more about just helping them feel more empowered and finding their voice and living their dream and their truth. And as you mentioned, you don't have to be perfect to play. That's a wrap for this episode of Navigating Life After 40. I hope you enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did. If you love what you're hearing, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. This helps me to reach more amazing women like yourself who are trying to navigate this amazing life. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep living your best life.